All right, hey everybody. I'm going to cover something a little bit different from my usual roster of handguns and rifles and things like that. Instead, in this one, I want to cover some optics actually. Well, this optic in particular. So we'll be talking about this here. This is the Vortex Venom 3 MOA pistol dot. And the reason why I kind of wanted to get a little bit more into reviewing maybe some of the optics that I have is because people want to know if the optics are any good or not. Because they're coming quickly becoming a more, I would say not essential, but more accessorized part of firearms, right? Because it used to be iron sights on your rifle pistol. It's pretty much all you needed. You put a scope maybe on like a bolt action rifle or something like that. But now they're becoming a little bit more prevalent, especially on pistols. So your pistol dots. So. Knowing that, though, I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of the trend myself. So, way back when these things were first getting kind of more popularized, I should say, my dad actually had a Ruger Mark IV very similar to this one, but he had the Vortex Venom mounted on his Mark IV, and that was my true first experience with a pistol dot on any, or a red dot, I should say, on any kind of pistol format like this. And it was definitely different because I grew up shooting iron sights for pistols all the time. So all the fundamentals for that just kind of, I wouldn't say go out the window, but it's definitely different. It's a different skill set. It requires different kind of presentation, posturing, how you hold the pistol in your hand, what you're looking for, all those types of things. And of course, it brings a whole lot of different techniques that you can use for being faster on your follow-up shots, being more accurate with your shots in general if you're trying to do like slow fire. Eye focus definitely is one thing. The infinite eye relief that comes with a red dot, not having to align anything, that's pretty nice. All those things that go into what makes a pistol dot, I would say, advantageous in some ways over iron sights or your traditional sighting systems. So, but knowing that was my first experience with pistol dots, and I really wanted to get one for myself and kind of get more into the trend of an actual slide rider pistol dot like this, and actually put it on a slide rider gun. Now, when I was first searching for these kinds of things, the MOS system for the Glock, like you see here, was just kind of getting its feet wet. It wasn't really like super duper popular, and a lot of manufacturers did not have optics ready pistols at the time. It wasn't as big, definitely, as it is now. So when you have pretty much every modern pistol that comes out is optics ready, that absolutely was not the case. Like, shoot, even 3 or 4 years ago, as recent as that. So the trend has definitely gone like way up for having pistols that can accept optics of whatever flavor. Now, the industry has had issues with like standardizing on certain footprints. The RMR pattern is definitely one of the more popular ones, but it doesn't necessarily mean that other manufacturers are kind of want to cut their own niche into the market themselves. So Springfield is especially notorious for this with like their Hellcat pistols. They say that they're optics ready, but really they're only cut for their specific line of Springfield brand red dots. So in order to get anything else, you have to get it modified or get a certain plate or do something that is outside of what's supplied from the factory to put a dot on your pistol, right? So some manufacturers are pretty guilty of that. SIG is another bad one that does that. So like with their 320s and the M17s, M18s, they are designed to fit only the Leopold Delta Point Pros, and anything else that can fit a Delta Point Pro footprint, right? But they do that on purpose because they obviously want to guide things a certain way, depending on the money and the deals that those companies have made with the other companies, right? It's all money. That's all it is. Because these companies could really make an optics footprint for anything that they wanted, really. But the interesting thing, though, about these Vortex Venom dots is that I believe these were their own. These were made before the footprints were really established. So you have like your RMR cuts, for instance. You have your Holosun cuts. You have your Shield cuts. You have all the different cuts now that are standardized, quote unquote, right, as standard footprints for the industry. But this one was different because it was earlier than the rest of them. And I believe now this is occupying what they call the doctor footprint, if I'm correct with that. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm not. But this footprint was definitely different from the others and definitely different from the RMR. So I bought this Glock Model 40 here, an MOS version, and I said, okay, well, if I'm going to be ridiculous with 10 millimeter, I'm going to want to put an optic on it, and just to see what the capabilities of this are to really, stretch its feet out quite a bit. Because 10 millimeter is a powerful cartridge, and I figured out of a 6-inch barrel like this, I could definitely use the red dot for some long-range precision accuracy, which is, of course, the case, as you've seen possibly in my other videos of me shooting this at 100 yards with this red dot. Works perfectly fine. There's no issues at all. It's very, very accurate. But the other thing I wanted to try was, okay, since this is a earlier design red dot and kind of, I would say, inexpensive as far as pistol dots go, I wanted to see what kind of abuse that this little Vortex here could take in a 10 millimeter platform, because 10 millimeters are not nice to optics at all in any way. And even with Glock's own MOS pattern like this, I just wanted to see altogether how long this dot would last with all the punishment that it was going to go through. So I'm happy to report that over 1,000 rounds of not wimpy 10 millimeter ammo through this gun, this dot has held up perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So it hasn't broken anything. The emitter hasn't shaken loose. The zero has been maintained. It has just performed excellently, and I've been honestly kind of surprised by that, because I guarantee you that when Vortex designed this dot, they were not designing it with the intention of being put on a 10 millimeter Glock. I can tell you that. So kudos to Vortex. But this dot definitely is showing its age. It's definitely not the clearest quality or the highest durability or anything like that. But for the purpose that I'm using it for, it works just fine, honestly. I mean, I guess I could take this to a competition, but I wouldn't necessarily trust it to hold up all that well under, like, I don't know, combat conditions. But for what I'm doing, just target shooting, that kind of thing, this dot is perfectly fine, to be honest. I think they also make a 6 MOA version of it, but for me, the whole argument of bigger dots versus smaller dots in your pistol dot, I think it's a matter of personal preference, honestly. I prefer the smaller dots because I can be very, very precise with them. But of course, the argument is that because it's smaller on presentation like this, it's going to be a little bit slower because you kind of have to fish around for it to actually see where that dot is, because of course it is twice as small as the 6 MOA dot. But a 6 MOA dot to me is it's just really big, and I don't know. I would rather the precision than the speed at this point for something like this. If I was going to do like a super duper hyper fast race competition gun, or maybe I wanted to have the 6 MOA version for some kind of practical defensive use pistol, okay, I could see the 6 MOA version. But for the 3, works fine for my purposes. Now, it being an open emitter like this, of course, there are disadvantages to that, and everyone can tell you about them. But for me, the dust, dirt, grime, gunpowder residue from the ejection port here, all of that is a factor. And being in Arizona, there's a lot of dust in the air that people don't really realize, and it's not like a moon dust, but it's kind of like not like a desert sand, but it's just a kind of dust that's in the air constantly. So when I take this thing out to the desert and go shoot it, or I won't go outside at all and go shoot it, I will usually have a thin layer of dust somewhere on the front lens and on the back on the inside as well. So I have to take extra effort to make sure this stays clean. Not that I can't see the dot already, but you definitely notice the specks of dust and crud and stuff that builds up over time. You will see it in the window, and it is noticeable. But it does not really affect, for me anyways, the ability to see my dot and use it accurately. So on this dot as well, I didn't bring a, here we go, I got a pen here. On the dot, you can see as well, it's built into the body here. There is these 2 little white notches in the back here. Now those are to kind of serve as like a rudimentary kind of iron sight, I guess. They sit a little bit high, honestly, to be practical, and I've tried shooting this pistol with the dot off using these two rear little white lines with the front sight up here, and it's it's of course it's like this, right? So it's aiming way freaking high. Now at close engagement distances, let's say like 25 yards and under, it doesn't really matter all that much, especially if I'm just using this as a backup and I really just need to hit my target, let's say a two-legged predator, okay? It'll work just fine. If I put the front sight here somewhere in the chest or torso region, I'm gonna hit them. It's fine. But they're not precision, definitely not. So. But also in this mount too, as you can see, it sits a little high, and it obviously does not have any kind of co-witnessing capability with the rear sights here or the front sight, which to me doesn't really bother me that much because, like I said, I'm using this mostly as a range tool, a range toy, and doesn't really make any difference to me. In fact, I prefer not having a co-witnessing kind of window like this because I want my window to be nice and clear and clean. I don't want my sights being the lower third co-witness or half co-witness or whatever. It just makes for a busy sight picture, and honestly, it makes me question the point of having a red dot on there at all if you're just going to light it up to your irons anyways. It's to me, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't like that personally, but I know there's some people out there that really like their co-witnesses. Cool, all the more power to you, but it's not my preference. So to me, it doesn't matter at all that it sits higher up like this. What else? So the dot clarity itself. Now this is something was very interesting to me because I distinctly remember shooting my dad's Mark IV with this dot before my eye surgery, and then shooting it after my eye surgery. So I had a laser corrective eye surgery a little while back, and let me tell you, it makes a huge difference when it comes to red dots. You'll at least for me anyways, I see them much differently, and in most cases a lot clearer too, because I had a pretty severe nearsightedness and like astigmatism, all the bad things you could possibly have. And then when you just think about optics, like you're wearing glasses, your eyes are messed up already, you have to go through the lens here, you have to look through all of that, right? All of those things combined to make for not a great viewing experience versus your naked eye and just the red dot here. So for me, the camera absolutely will not do this any justice at all. Let me see if I can turn it on there for you. If it'll even pick it up. I don't think it will, but okay. Yeah, it's not picking it up at all. But anyway, the red dot on this for the 3 MOA version is actually pretty darn clear. So when I'm looking at it, a lot of people will report different experiences when they look at a red dot, and I've just from the people I've taught how to shoot and things like that with red dots of all different makes, models, and varieties. They report all kinds of different things. You'll get like people who see a solid sideways bar. You'll see people with two different dots that are kind of sparkling and starbursting. You'll see some people that just have a big starburst. You'll see some people that have an oval shape, and just all kinds of crazy things. But for me, before I got my eye surgery done, I basically saw a nice, clear, crisp, not exactly perfectly round circle, but a little bit maybe more like oblong, oval shaped, right? And it was okay. Maybe a little bit of bursting on the sides. Wasn't too bad. When I got my eye surgery, now what I see is a single, very solid circle with minor bursting on the outside. It's really not that bad, and it gets better if I turn the brightness intensity down. The dot gets much clearer as I get lower and lower in brightness, to the point where it's such a nice, like, crisp dot that at certain brightnesses when I have it over my target, it's transparent, of course, but it's still bright enough for me to see where that dot is, and it makes it for a really nice target acquisition and lining up right there. So that's really what helped me when I was doing those long range shots against my steel plates that were yellow and red and things like that, because all it took for me was to take my dot that was transparent, nice and crisp and clean, and just put it over my steel plate, pull the trigger, bam, there you go. Simple as that. So I've actually been really impressed with the clarity and the brightness levels of this dot. Yeah, it can be daylight bright, of course, because I've shot it that way. The video can prove that. Yeah, so For being a older generation, like early technology of this kind of technology of this format, it's actually pretty darn impressive, I will say, especially for the price point. Because when I bought this, I bought it from Focus Camera a couple years ago, and they had it on sale. I want to say it was like 140 or 150 shipped or something like that. Really good price. Because now retail, I think you can find them like 180 or 200 something dollars like that, even though it is an older pattern. But I got it for cheap is the point. Very high value dot, because of course Vortex is known for their excellent value in optics, and I don't say that ironically. I actually mean that. I do love my Vortex optics. More on that later. I actually should make a video on that, but yeah, they have some great warranty and customer service. I can definitely tell you that firsthand experience. But the dot, yes, very impressive actually for the technology of its time. It's held up well with this 10 millimeter setup. So if it can handle a 10 millimeter over 1,000 rounds on this gun, shoot, I think it'll be fine for any 9 millimeter 45 that you got. Maybe a revolver even. I think it'll do just fine. And so the couple mounts that came with this too, you can also definitely put this on like a AR pistol or really any kind of rifle format that has a pick rail, because they do have a pick rail base for this. And this would absolutely be serviceable on something like that, or maybe even a shotgun, right? Totally serviceable for that kind of thing. If I was going to do something like that, like a shotgun, I'd definitely probably go with the 6 MOA dot, because it's much bigger and you're not trying to be ultra precise with a shotgun, With a larger format AR, like a 16-inch carbine or something like that, I'd probably still stick with the 3 MOA dot, because when you're bringing up your AR like this, you got all your points of contact and things, and your eye tends to line up a little bit more naturally when you bring it up like that, versus a pistol where you kind of have to fish around a little bit to find out where it's at in the field. The ARs and things tend to line up a little bit more naturally when you do that. So, and of course they work really well on pistols like this, like your Mark IVs or your Browning Buckmarks, things like that have this kind of pick rail attachment here on the top. Great application for that, definitely. So, but yeah, it uses a standard, I think it's a 2032 battery. And I will say that the one downfall of this is lack of like really good programmability, and also battery life. I have changed the battery on this thing like I don't know how many times, and I don't even remember if it has an auto off feature. I don't think it does. Someone will correct me on that, I'm sure. But yeah, the battery life on this optic tends to be pretty cruddy, honestly. It's not too impressive, but like I said, for the purposes that I use it for, it doesn't really matter. If it's dead, I always carry spare batteries at the range. I've got a ton of spares at the house, so it doesn't really bother me all that much. And of course, yes, the emitter will of course return to zero, or keep it zero, even if you do change the battery, because it is of course a top loading, as you can see there, which is very convenient. So overall, I mean, these Vortex Venoms, durability was already addressed for me. Great durability. The optic clarity, the dot clarity was great. Battery life, okay. The brightness, of course, is daylight bright, so that's good enough for me. That's if it's bright enough during the daylight, it'll be bright enough for any application that you need. Nighttime shooting, I have not, of course, tried this with night vision because I don't have that kind of setup, but I don't think a whole lot of people do night vision anyways. But if you're doing night vision, there's probably better options out there than this. It's kind of old tech. But even though it is open emitter like this, it obviously with all the disadvantages that comes with that, you're going to collect a lot of dirt, dust, grime, whatever. Just keep it clean. It's no big deal. The addition of a pick rail mount is good, so you can put this on other things that aren't pistols. So it's flexible. And I think, honestly, it's just a really good kind of do-it-all kind of dot. Like, I can't really complain too much about it, because it's worked for everything that I've needed it to do. So, yeah, you get your adjustment buttons there on the side. But, yeah, for its purpose, when it was made, and what I'm using it for, it's been flawless, honestly. I really do like the price point as well to what it comes into. And let's say even if at like 1,500 rounds, 2,000 rounds through this pistol, the optic finally breaks, well, I can send it into Vortex and they'll fix it no problem. I have absolutely no concern about that at all. Because their customer service is just great. But anyway, I will cover that in another video, though. I got a pretty nice package from Vortex recently, and let's just say I'm very pleased with what I got. So, but anyway, yeah. So if you were ever thinking about a Vortex Venom, not to be confused with the Vortex Viper. God, I hate Vortex's naming conventions when it comes to their stuff. Oh, but anyway, Vortex Venom here, 3 MOA dot. Yeah, Doctor Footprint works great, honestly. If you want a nice intro kind of red dot here for your pistols to kind of get into the pistol trend, like I wanted to, this is absolutely a great choice to start with. Are there better options out there nowadays? Yeah, 100%. The Holosuns out there, the RMRs, the Trigicons even, all those name brands, right, that make dots, yeah, they're probably going to be far and away better than this. I mean, heck, even my Holosun 507C, yeah, 507C with the ACSS reticle blows this thing out of the water. It's so cool. But I'm going to do a review on that one later as well. But honestly, like I said, for no frills, basic pistol dot like this that you just want it to work, and it's pretty dang durable for a good price and nice dot clarity and all that stuff, you can't go wrong with this, like honestly. So yeah, high praise, high recommendation from me. There's better things out there, but with a lot of Vortex products, of course, there are going to be better things than what you're buying. But I think for what you get and the money that you're paying, it's not bad at all. Not bad at all. So yeah, I thought I'd bring this little optics review to you guys because it is a part of gun gear, and I think people generally want an opinion or a review for optics before they buy them, just like guns, right? So anyway, I will cover my other optics here in turn over time. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring this one to you guys as the first one, just to get a feel for it and look for it and all that stuff. So yeah, highly recommended. And cool. That's all I got to say about that, and we'll see you next time.